So it all started with a box of bees. It was deep within the stores of the company, in the depths where only the bravest dare enter. Well, that, and literally about everyone with a basic level 1 access code. And in the depths, one could find a box of bees, all dead and devoid of any colour. Bees that had once nested in the suburbs of North Carolina, in an odd house that had always stood there. They called it the House of Tongues. My name is Canopy Hydrangea. I recover cursed artifacts, explore haunted places, and report back the information needed to the people I work for. The company then arrange what is to be done and remove these blemishes from the world. If it isn't possible, we make sure the evil of cursed artifacts and bizarre places doesn't make its way to the general public. But sometimes, it's important to leak a report or two to the unsuspecting public. Makes for a good warning, and this particular file is one of many that must be known. So, team, I began, as we sat around an old fireplace in the bakery turned cover for our base of operations. What has the company found us today? Rainey, my key assistant, tuned up the old projector and pressed a few buttons. Kieran faked a yawn, and my scrollkeeper, Cypress, laughed. We all stopped laughing when the image of a dead dog, bloodied and covered in long piercing slashes, emerged. So, let's talk about the House of Tongues, Rainey began, changing the slide to an image of a remodelled but still old-looking house. This house was built in the 1620s and I'll cut Rainey's exposition by a lot here. Many unnecessary details, but details that kept us intrigued and interested. The house, built in 1627, was built by a migrating priest and his family. Initially, it was supposed to be a small cabin, a little summer place for rest and meditation. This all changed when, according to local mythology, the priest was offered a deal by an odd man in white and black. He called himself the Night Merchant, and the priest gave up his cabin, and within 7 days and 7 nights, a grand, expansive house replaced it. The licking began to take place nearly a year after that. Not much is known from the priest's records, as Rainey tells it. His words were deemed heresy and burned. But we know that the house, named Artiga Place, changed hands over the centuries, though most records were lost to time. The more important records came after the end of the Great War. 1927. A family, the Bakers, moves to Artiga Place, now remodelled to fit in with the little town that popped up in the economic boom. 1928. William Baker's youngest daughter reports a sensation at night, a strange rough feeling, as if she were being licked by a cat. Cats do not approach Artiga Place. In fact, the house does not seem to welcome all but human life. Cats who approach it go mad and disappear. The family dog Baker brings along is found on the street, eviscerated by long piercing slashings the police could never explain. 3 months later, the sightings began. William Baker goes out one day to investigate mewling noises behind the house. The entire backyard is trashed. Pots have gone flying. Dirt has been dug. The entire garden has been uprooted. Darting around the corner are monsters. Small, slender things, an ashen white with bodies as thin as sticks. Their bones show, the muscles pulse. But strangest of all are their heads, large and muscular, adorned with small horns that dot it, and 2 eyes he states as deep blue as the sea. Terrified and confused, William goes back to the house to fetch a rifle. When he goes back, though, they've vanished. The noises continue for the rest of the year, but always gone before he can take a good clear look. But something else, far more chilling and incredible, has appeared. One of his 2 daughters has vanished. Both company and government records show that the Bakers only had 1 daughter. And yet, in the cold winter of 1928, William Baker finds himself mad, shocked as he begins to remember a daughter that never existed. An older daughter, he remembers, but try as he might, he can't picture her face, nor find any certificates, legal evidence she had existed. But in the halls of the house, she does. There's a bedroom with things that aren't supposed to be there, a bed, posters and books, all evidence of a teenage girl having once lived there. But on paper, she does not exist, and neither does she exist in the minds of anyone else. His wife and only daughter do not acknowledge the extra room. His neighbours seem to avoid him. 1929. At night, they come. They appear as shadows in the windows, peering in with small hands, large blue eyes. And then they open a circular, razor-like mouth, and a long tongue with teeth emerges, licking the window and gently cracking it. William takes his rifle and journeys outside. The creatures seem to taunt him, gracefully avoiding his gunshots, leading him deeper and deeper into the woods that were not there when he bought the place, when he realizes that his fences have ceased to exist. It's too late. The creatures are gone, and behind him, in a large house called Cottage Place, there are screams. When William Baker finally finds the house again, everything is silent. His wife and child are gone. The creatures sit cross-legged and wait, tongues eerily lolling out. He shoots them, but the bullets always seem to miss. By dusk, they are gone. Legally, William Baker's wife and 2 kids do not exist. He spent the rest of his life telling the same tale in a mental asylum. He also claimed the creatures followed him there, always peeking in through the bars and windows. He is found near death one day, bizarre lacerations and sloshings. A man comes by, wrapped in shadow, and gives him a buzzing box. Bees. And the creatures never appeared.
Wait,
Kieran cut in.
You're saying that bees, of all things, stop these Tong aliens?
Rainey nodded, almost in disbelief of the story herself. Whoever gave him those bees knew how to deal with them, she continued. However it works, it worked. William got out of the asylum and lived the rest of his life as a beekeeper, Cypress guessed. Rainey nodded. So, if the case is closed, why has the company handed it over to us? Rainey sighed in disappointment. As I was saying, she remarked, teeth clenched, the bees have failed. A slide displayed thousands of dead bees around the house. In 1937, 2 company agents bought the house and bombarded the place with beehives. Beehives that have remained ever since, cared for by a gardener. She paused and switched it over to another angle. Last week, the gardener vanished, only remembered by a single surviving company agent. Any guesses as to what they want us to do? I nodded and gleefully raised my hand. They want us to clean it up. The bees and I tried to think of the name. Tong aliens. Tonlians, if you will. That generated some laughter. Cypress, Kieran, you 2 are my containment experts. Cypress revealed a drawing on an iPad. Already working on a spell. Kieran shrugged. The new iron salt guns are ready. I looked at Rainey in anticipation, wondering if there was more. That's about it. There's a similar story that happened in 1932, but same old, same old. She paused, thinking. We should also watch for artifact hunters. Sources suggest Loreno's crew may be looking to seize one of the, aliens for themselves. I practically growled. Loreno and his crew were a gang of villains that dabbled in selling cursed artifacts and cryptids to shady dealers. Cryptid smuggling. Rainey nodded. Cypress noticed this as well. If they show boss, we'll take them out this time. By the next hour, we prepared all we needed. We stood by a large symbol-adorned mirror and waited. Cypress chanted some ancient, long-forgotten poetry, and the mirror changed to a quiet street. Rainey stepped through, then Cypress, Kieran, and me, and then we were face to face with Cottage Place. I felt a sense of great discomfort. Do you... I muffled my ears, suddenly starting to hurt. Hear that? It was the sound of bees, buzzing all at once, in a cursed, malevolent death knell. I screamed in pain and fell to the floor. Cypress caught me as I fell and read off their phone. Infected beast of, unholy. I drifted in and out as the ghost swarm dazed me. Begone! And it was over, and my vision cleared. The house is powerful, I murmured. I don't think we're just dealing with the Tong things, I stammered, still dizzy. I reached into the other, More than one entity. Kieran looked a bit worried.
Should we call for backup?
Nah, I replied. We can take it. We entered the house, the buzzing still in the back of my mind. As told, a swarm of bees lay dead around the place, and with every step we took, a loud crunch emanated, echoing around the house. Besides that, and the deep fear we were all beginning to feel, there was nothing. All the events happened at night, Rainey reminded, and it is... Drip, drop. Something red and thick fell into my hand. It was blood. Drip, drop. More began to fall from the ceiling, a river of blood pouring from cracks. It was cold and seemed to pulse in time, as if alive. Rainey wrote into a journal, then collected a sample. Weird. It's not a threat. Kieran nervously pointed his weapon around.
Well, I don't like it.
Well, go on and insult it, I told. I don't like it either. Kieran nodded, reached into his bag and found a sphere of white. We averted our eyes as he lit the fuse, tossing it up into the air and exploding in light, spraying us with salt and fine iron, enchanted, so that it would not hurt us. The ghost blood stopped and fell to the ground, evaporating into ash. One phenomena neutralized, Rainey noted. We continued onwards, until the house decided to shift itself, creaking, trying to spin its holes, so that we would emerge back where we came from. We were at the kitchen, then it would creak, and the doorway opened. Back up front, I murmured. I'll handle it, Cypress offered, already beginning to chant. The place let out a sigh, and things were restored. It won't hold, though. And then they finally appeared. Little deformed things. Pale bodies, large heads, large bulbous eyes. They appeared in the corner of my eye at first, though as we ventured deeper into the house, they seemed to dart here and there. Kieran attempted to shoot them, but they seemed ever evading, always just out of reach. Rainey noted them and sketched the beings, and as we got deeper, the sound of the dead bees began to crescendo. And other noises, the sounds of screams, of pleas for help. The house seemed to go on forever, unfolding, each layer of their house seemingly older and more arcane than the last. In front, it had seemed like a remodelled house. Inside, it was at least 30 years old, and in each subsequent hall and room, it got older and older. In the distance, we saw something dark and rocky. That's a cave, isn't it? I asked. Cypress's magic was no use either. Wait, they paused, as we reached the cave. The shadows flickered within, and the creature seemed to whisper in the darkness. He spun around and gasped. I think we've been tricked. I turned to see a wall. A solid wall of paint and brick. This wasn't there the last time I screamed as something lashed out, cutting me. Ah! A tongue drew into the darkness, sharp. Lights! Rainey shouted, flicking on a lantern. The electric device sputtered and failed, illuminating about a dozen tongue things in the darkness, leaping out into shadow. Damn it! Kieran began to fire aimlessly as more and more tongues darted in and out, slashing us. Cypress, boss, solution. Cypress read off their phone, and a ball of light emerged in front of us, yet the darkness still remained. The wall behind us began to move, pushing us forward. The magician yelped as tendrils of paint burst from the wall, ensnaring him. Help me! I flicked the knife open and let him loose. We were being forced forwards. The wall behind us seemed ever fleshy now, tendrils of red dripping limbs, reaching out at us. In front, tongues lashed out, cutting us up, one by one. But we continued to push, running forwards and firing as the wall of flesh behind us forced us into the darkness. Look! I shouted. A building! There was something there, ancient and carved from stone. The ruins of an ancient temple that seemed just like the house. Statues of the tongue things lay in wait, eerily inviting us in. The wall picked up speed, and we ran into the ruin, just as the wall crashed into its entrance, locking us within. A flash, then black goo. I got one, Kieran cheered, stepping over and picking it up. It whined, still alive, and a tongue lashed out, only for Kieran to sever it.
They can be killed.
Rainey was studying the walls of the temple. The death of the creature had scared them off, for now at least. This place is old, like, really old. I've never seen this, she gestured to the arcane symbols on the walls, language before. Cypress knelt down next to two skeletons, little marks of teeth all over.
It must be the bakers.
Around us were more skeletons, all marked by small incisions. Most were ancient, but some were all too new. A fresh corpse even lay in a corner, just a few days old. I looked at it. I recognised the corpse as a black market artefact dealer.
Serves you right.
Company agents, Rainey gasped. A team, just like ours, lay dead on the floor, recently deceased. I thought we were the first to come here in a long time. This place, I remembered, eats people. Memories. HQ probably sent them and forgot they existed. A scuttling came from deeper within, and the sound of bees suddenly stopped. An unceasing quiet came next, and suddenly I preferred the bees to the quiet.
I think, Cypress announced, I can get us out of here.
And then they reached into their backpack and brought out, of all things... Is that a cat? Rainey puzzled. Did you actually...
I supposed it would come in handy,
Cypress confessed.
Plus, it isn't mine, and I've got to return it.
Enough, guys, I ordered. Cypress, how does this work? A glint in their eye came now.
Well, they began, we know that the house hates animals, right?
We nodded.
Let's see why.
And with that, Cypress released the cart, and it trotted softly down a hall deep into the temple. We followed until the cat stopped before a chamber, stone gates warding us off. I opened the gates, and then we saw it. This was some sort of congregation room, a grand hall filled with stone benches, ancient symbols of old religion, and thousands of the creatures were sleeping, save for a dozen or so chattering and climbing the walls.
Look, there!
Cypress pointed their light into the corner of the hall, where creatures popped in and out.
Daylight.
A way out, I murmured.
Just have to get through all of this first,
Kieran pointed out.
Not necessarily, Cypress started. I'll be right back.
Cypress returned a moment later with the corpse of the tongue creature, then inscribed several symbols into it with a knife. They lit up, and we walked into the hole, Cypress leading us forwards. The creatures began to wake, jumping beside us and sniffing the air.
I've disguised us as a mass of them,
Cypress explained.
Let's see how long this holds.
The creatures ignored us, returning to hibernation. I observed the hall as we journeyed closer and closer to daylight. Statues of goat-like things watched us, tall and ancient, yet oddly familiar. The creatures tended to the place, lighting candles and even managing a small garden towards the bark. They did not construct the place, but whoever did left them to tend for it, and to keep it sacred, safe.
Oh no, Cypress murmured. The spell's worn off.
That's when the creatures began to shift, paying attention to us once again. Cypress gulped, found the cat and threw it.
Run!
And so we did, towards daylight. The creatures lashed out at us, the cat seemed to distract them, pouring its way through the little beasts.
I need rope,
Cypress commanded, just as a light shone above us. An opening seemed so far away. Here! I tossed it, and Cypress reached out with ancient art and floated it up. Climb! I shouted, already beginning to do so. Go! And as we climbed, the creatures did so too, leaping from the walls to seize us. Kieran fired and Cypress did strange art. I slashed them away, and they fell to an ever-growing pile below us. 3 were on the rope below us.
Take this!
Kieran slashed the rope, cutting them loose. I rose into the light first, pressing open a grate and helping Cypress up. Rainey came next, then Kieran. I threw the rope over and shut the grate back down. Still, they stuck to the walls, still chasing us. I found an explosive, strapped it to the grate and ran. A boom came behind us, and no opening remained. We were in the backyard. I think, I murmured, I'm going to submit this place for immediate destruction. And that was that. The place had been surveyed. Our job was done. We'd done all we could and found what we needed. We couldn't stop them on our own. A request was made, and the last time I heard of the place, it had both been burned, collapsed, and creatures seized for further study. Another day was done. Another bizarre place kept under control. If you know a place marked by evil, let us handle it.